If purpose is not the center of what we do, it is difficult to build a sustainable model, and the ecosystem will not be an equitable one. Our purpose is bigger than our product, our technology, and our service. It creates a movement that is larger than us. Social impact is the effect of that purpose. Where your social impact is driven by purpose, you serve, not sell, you transform, not transact, you steward, not possess, and welcome to a different kind of impact. You know, I believe purpose-driven social impact is different, okay? And for us, to begin today, I just want to ask to start off by saying that we need to rewrite the brief, right? Reset our start points and refresh the script. So what's the big deal? Why? Why do we need to rewrite the brief? Well, let me tell you, where's the problem? One day at a social service conference sometime back in Singapore, I raised my hand up after a panel discussion. It was addressing the future of family services in Singapore. When I mentioned to the minister on the panel, I said to her, sir, in our current scheme of things, the way that programs and services are funded, I believe if we are honest, and if we're willing to admit, we fund failures and failure. We fund failure and failures. And I think there was a hush in the room. I went on to then explain that, especially for agencies like family service centers and all, funding is invariably tied to caseloads and the number of families served. The more cases are attended to, the more funding is given. Each case is a number on our KPI dashboard and part of that all familiar evaluation metrics. Out of which most of us receive our funding support and we get paid for it, and this helps pay for the staff, it helps pay for the rents, equipment, supplies, and food too. In fact, just recently, at a meeting such as this, I heard from a lead social worker from one of the FSCs in Singapore. And this is what he was sharing to me. And he says the story has not changed. He was sharing about how well they did, how they did, and how they got all the funding, and led to more needs to hire more social workers, and more staff led to more cases. And now he says this: they are more tired, they are more overwhelmed, there are more problems, and they were more burned out. And so honestly, he was asking, is this something sustainable? Is this the way to go? More cases, more funding, more social workers. More cases, more funding, more social workers. And the cycle goes on and on. And if nothing changes, if we continue on the same way down the road, I believe this same framework actually perpetuates and supports what I call what has gone wrong, and not what has gone right. So the more difficult question that you and I need to ask is really this: who is then funding and resourcing services and programs dedicated to the prevention of things going wrong and from going wrong again? You see, it's like pouring funds into repairs and not the prevention of repairs. It is like funding the building of more hospitals and not building the health of communities. So who is funding the motivation to reduce caseloads? To see the numbers come down and even disappear? I'm sure many of you here today agree with me that often we say that we need to come to a place where we are out of a job. But are we? Can we? Are we willing to? When jobs and livelihoods are at stake. That's what funding failure and failures look like. You see, unknowingly and subtly, if this framework of scalability and sustainability continues, something is going to break. You see, since day one, when I came into this sector of serving the poor and the needy, one thing that's bothered me a lot is that we may go down that moral slippery slope of making a living off the poor. Or crudely putting it, pimping off the poor. Just to keep our agencies afloat. and our starved and poor. We cannot stop. We have mouths to feed, even as we feed the poor. You see, this is personally unnerving for me, and this actually kills me. And I believe that today, even as we are here, social enterprises and all, I believe we need to be willing to be honest with ourselves. And I want to say that I speak this not out of strength. I really speak this as out of a person that will say, I'm counted as guilty too. So where is the real problem? How did we even get here? I think we all know that meeting needs, servicing needs, plugging the service gaps in society are not wrong. But are they the real problem? Stephen Covey has this to say: the way we see the problem is the problem. The way we see the problem is the problem. The real problem is the way we see the problem. What this means is that if we continue to see needs as problems to be solved, then we tend to think of solutions to meet and mitigate the pain. Nothing more, nothing less. And identify the wound, find the band-aids, preferably sponsored and paid by government. Okay? Apply the band-aids, send the problem home. And as more cuts and wounds are brought to us, we go find more band-aids. Maybe this time a whole box of it because of the economies of scale, right? And dispense of ASAP. You see, this kind of mindset can easily become a mindset. So is there another way of doing it? Is there another way to see this problem, or to unsee this problem? And the answer for all of us here must definitely be a determined yes. Things cannot be status quo. We need a paradigm shift. We must embrace the need to change and rewrite the brief. Reset the start points, refresh the scripts. In essence, change the way we see again. So here's the deal. What if we unsee needs, not as problems, but potential and purpose? The brief rewrite is the call for us to not just meet needs, but to mind potentials. Not to just fix problems, but to find purpose. What the beneficiaries we serve, even with their limitations and special needs, are persons of value and potential, of opportunities, assets, and relational networks yet untapped. What dysfunctional families and broken relationships that we see before us are families that have unique strengths and communities of purpose. What if these are opportunities of change? What if problems as assets yet to be uncovered and discovered? What if issues are relational problems for building community and community development? What if problems are purpose yet to be fulfilled? There was a speaker that once said this, that one of the greatest needs in our sector today is not just the need to change, but the need to change the way we change. So as we rewrite the brief, I believe we need to redefine impact again. Beyond superficial quick fix solutions of cause and effect, but deeper outcomes and impact defined and driven by potential and purpose. So as we rewrite the brief, we go back to why purpose. Why purpose? You see, because purpose is who we are and why we are. The very reason for us to exist. Purpose drives us deeper into the transformational change at the root of our calling and our identity. Purpose brings us beyond the fruit of the external outcomes to the roots and core of who we are. So why purpose? Number one, I believe purpose empowers. Purpose empowers because it fuels and it motivates, right? When the outcome of this focus moves to the why and who, it helps us to clarify our capacity as a community. We then do what we need to do and should do. We become more effective and we can even do more. This is where we teach people how to fish and not just to give them a fish. You see, purpose provides us with a more scalable and sustainable framework to build from. You see, scalability is not just in terms of quantitative linear expansions, but I believe scalability must be in real terms of empowerment and motivation. Sustainability is not just about the security of our supply chains, but sustainability is really about strong, supportive, purposeful relationships of shared values and shared purposes. Number one, purpose empowers. Number two, I believe purpose dignifies. Because you see, in purpose we bring out the worth and the value in people. See, purpose honors and motivates from within. As purpose recognizes and affirms identity and meaning, it dignifies relationships. You see, dignity strengthens and builds resilience, especially through tough times. You see, when purpose is present, it values both giver and receiver. It values both the service provider as well as the beneficiaries. Acknowledging and accepting one another's strength and weakness as they walk and work together. You see, there can be no perfect plan or perfect match, but there can be one clear and enduring purpose. There can be no perfect plan or perfect match, but there can be a clear and enduring purpose. So in closing, I just want to share with you what I call a small change that makes a big difference. I recall about 10 years into my journey into this space of serving the poor and the needy, as the ED and CEO of a community service organization. One day we were reflecting and reviewing our volunteer and client engagement strategies again. And to see our outcomes, and with the leadership team, we landed on one of these very simple calls. We said, let's make our clients our volunteers, and let's make our volunteers our clients. Let's make our clients our volunteers. Let's make our volunteers our clients. What did that mean? It simply meant this. We started by looking at our clients now differently, not just as receivers, but we believe that in them we can bring them to a place where they can be giving. So that's where we want to be. We didn't want them to stay in that place of being just a recipient, but to be a giver. So I started sharing with them that every one of them need to acknowledge a need, be a giver, and cherish a dream. And that was the beginning of something like that, what we did in our senior centers, where our seniors came down to our senior activity center. And after a while, we begin to realize that they don't just come out as clients, we can make them givers. So after a while, we got them together, about 50 of them, and we said, today, you're no longer a client, we want to make you a volunteer. And what you're going to do is that you're going to go back up and visit all your neighbors who have not been able to come down today and find out why they're not there. Are they sick? Are they not well? Are they unhappy? Client becoming volunteers. You know, we did that and we saw things starting to change. Because when many of them came into the center as clients and they went out as a giver, their whole life and their whole living has changed. We saw, and so when I challenged my team to say, let's believe that every client that we have can be a volunteer, my team turned to me and said, Eugene, you say so? What about this bed-bound, elderly, frail client that we're serving? Well, at the point of time, we were doing home care. And in home care, you serve someone who is technically must be bedbound and he cannot move around. And I turned to them and I said, team, I believe this man can be a giver. They said, how? Well, why don't we do this? And this is what we did. We brought young people to visit the elderly, frail, homebound men. And as they visited with him, I said, why don't we do this? Let's celebrate their birthday, his birthday. Right? So they brought a portable printer, they brought a camera, and then they took a picture with him, and the man started to cry and says, wow, this is the first time somebody came and celebrated my birthday. And then after that, what happened? The man started telling the young people his story. And it was his story that made the difference. So I said to my team, look, a bed-bound, frail, elderly man can be a giver. Why? He has a story to tell. Well, that's how we make our clients volunteers. Then we said to my team, we said, then let's make our volunteers our clients. What does it mean by that? You see, volunteers come to us. They are givers, they are donors, they are sponsors, they are people with great resources. And many a times when our volunteers come to us, we think that they have it all. They got it all right because they're in a place to give, in a place to give. But I said to my team, can we look at each one of them, the dear volunteers that we have, the sponsors that we have, the donors that we have, as people with needs. What needs? The need for recognition, the need for appreciation, the need for validation, the need for that sense of purpose and meaning in everything that you're doing. So can that voluntary experience, can that volunteer experience with us be a place of meaning and learning? And suddenly, everything changed. We had a corporate volunteer that started volunteering with us. And after a while, we began to realize that the CEO came to see me and said this, our voluntary experience with you has been so good. This is what we're going to do. It has become our staff development scheme in my company. It's become a place where if I want to promote any manager, I must make sure that he's volunteer with you guys first, because what you're doing has touched and changed their life. That's what's happening. We have a program called Teach Up, where we bring teachers overseas to do teachings. And in this team of teachers that go over there and as they volunteer, they all come back transformed. And so I come up to principals at MOE and said to them, give me your discouraged teachers. I bring them there and they'll come back encouraged. It's full of professional development. This is when we begin to see our clients, our volunteers, as clients, as people with real needs. So I begin to realize that, back then, I didn't have fancy terms like purpose-driven social impact. But on reflection, I believe we were very purpose-driven. We were driven then by that very simple call to believe that when we see a person, we must see beyond him. A person of value, a person of good. And what is the simple purpose that we were heading for? The simple purpose that we were getting for was simply this. We were there to build community. We were there to build community. And as we built community, we saw authentic relationships rise and the strength of the communities grow. So friends, today, when your social impact is driven by purpose, you serve, not sell. You transform, not transact. You steward, not possess. So let's begin this day to rewrite the brief with purpose. Because purpose empowers, purpose dignifies. Thank you.